address you. So we thank you so much for your patience, because you had to wait for us to finish off our proceedings, as we had convened a conference, a stakeholders conference, as the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Citizens Task Force, which is a development from the presser that we had initially at the media center, where first you saw me and Matutu coming out. Then the next time I was on my own, and today I have a number of progressive people with me here before you. So I'm not going to address you in regards to the developments that came out of this stakeholders conference. We have agreed as a conference to have someone speak on our behalf and outline that which we have discussed and agreed on as concerned citizens and stakeholders. But what I'll simply do is I will say to you, to my left, we have Reverend who is representing some religious organizations. Not all religious groups are here. Others are still to warm up to our initiative, and we expect they will be on board in the near future. Then we have those representing certain sections of the informal sector or the informal businesses, including the vendors. You know who this is, and they have come forward as an organization to say we agree in this movement and cause. And with me here on my immediate left, we have a leader from the trade union sector. They are with ZFTU. They are the ones we have initially warmed up to the idea to fight corruption with the citizens, the rest of the people. And to my immediate right is a leader and an activist in her own right, who has been in the trenches pushing on a number of fronts and on a number of issues affecting the generality of our people. So we have also activists on board, and we also have, next to her is also my sister from the civic society. We have also come on board to be part of this initiative to fight corruption. And next to her, we also have a brother who is also a youth activist and a youth leader in his own right. We've also said, no, we are coming up to join this fight against corruption. And so is the next person seated next to my brother, who is second from my far right. He is also a youth leader and an activist, and also a citizen who has been affected by corruption. We also have people representing their own organizations and companies amongst the delegates who attended this conference, who said, no, we must come together and be part of this movement to fight corruption. Then on my extreme right, we have a lecturer from a renowned institution. So we also have learned people with us from the academia who are willing to be part of this fight and cause to fight against corruption. And obviously myself, yours dearly, you know my background, where I'm coming from, and the position that I hold now in the society. So in the interim, I have assigned myself a duty to coordinate others in the interim as we constitute ourselves into a formidable force. So mine today is just to give these introductory remarks to introduce these people to you. But in terms of the developments and the proceedings of the conference, I will hand over to my sister here. She's Lynette Mdewe, Mujare Mdewe. Over to you, my sister.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother Godfrey Tsenemangu. Tsenengam. Tenors, I always call him Tenors. Before I talk about what we have discussed as a task force, maybe if we could also make this categorically clear that we are a generation which has got a mandate and obligation to continue with the struggle for the total independence of our country, Zimbabwe. Every generation, from the generations of Mbuya Nehanda, the generations of Kaguvi, the generations of Tongogari, every generation has got its war that it must fight, because life is a daily struggle. Life is a generational struggle. Our generational struggle is one of economic revolution, realizing that the political revolution has been fought and it ended in 1980 when Zimbabwe got liberated, which is something that can be discussed if it has been fully achieved or not. But as a generation, we are saying, where are we taking Zimbabwe economically? Where are we taking this country? Economic growth, what are we going to be doing as a generation to fight and end poverty? That is everywhere that we see. We are a poor people, yet our country is full of natural resources that must be taking and pushing this country to the correct heights that it must be taking. We have, as a generation, identified corruption as an enemy of our generation. Corruption is an enemy to economic growth in Zimbabwe. Corruption is going to be fought by this generation using all constitutional methods available for us to use. We have declared, I repeat, corruption a generational enemy to Zimbabweans and an enemy to economic growth. We as citizens of Zimbabwe, united in our diversity for the love of Zimbabwe, to educate, engage, and escalate the fight against corruption. We are coming from diverse backgrounds, formal and informal business, women and youth, activists, the labor, academia, as citizens of this great nation of Zimbabwe. Corruption in Zimbabwe and the world over is very sophisticated. It has different forms and types and shapes. At times it happens independently, at times it's intertwined as a web. So corruption must be understood in all its forms, shapes, and types. It is a system with different parts. Some types of corruption are racial white supremacy. That is the system of governance that we have in Zimbabwe, that we inherited from the colonialists that colonized Zimbabwe. This system promotes white capital, that is capitalist monopoly. So we are saying capitalism on its own is a form of corruption. The justice system that we inherited from the Smith regime protects corruption. Whilst we are expecting our courts and the police system to be arresting corruption, we have seen many people being arrested in this country for corruption, and lawyers have been able to free these people from all the allegations that would have been made because of the law that we are currently using in Zimbabwe, which is a racial white supremacist law. Corruption takes the form of nepotism. I come from Manika land. I am Hanga, I am Shiri. So once you appoint me to a position, I will ensure that all the Hangas in this country occupy all the strategic positions. All the Hangas in this country have the good jobs that are available. All my kith and kins benefit because they are connected. Today we hear every Zimbabwean, all of us saying, I am connected. I know so and so, so I am going to get this. I got this job because I am connected. That is nepotism. And that affects every Zimbabwean, every one of us. We are having things. We are getting jobs. We are getting mines. We are getting farms. We are getting companies because we are connected to somebody. So as beneficiaries of corruption, we are equally corrupt as the people of Zimbabwe. Corruption has involved every one of us. We are victims and we are also perpetrators of corruption as citizens of Zimbabwe. We have got tender or grant corruption, whereby a government parastatal gives tenders to people because they are connected to give certain services or buy certain products. When that person does not have the financial capacity to be having that tender. Again, the law is used when these tenders are being given, and they're also used when these people, these tenderpreneurs, fail to deliver whatever they've been paid for. They are working scot-free in Zimbabwe. I'll give an example of our own week now. Everybody knows about the Gwanda solar project. Where is the solar that is being generated from Gwanda? Do not use the law to me to say he did not commit a crime. Because common sense tells me that when you are paid to give a service, you must give that service. And as long as that service has not been given, then there has been corruption. But when they go to court, they use papers to say, no, A, B, C, D was not done. So I was not able to do A, B, C, D. In fact, you must actually pay me for breach of contract. That is the law that is protecting tender corruption. We have abuse of office. People who hold positions in government. Recently we have got a deputy minister of health who went to India. They are not mandated to be buying anything for the Ministry of Health, but they abused their office. And unfortunately, they even brought in things that are not the correct things to be used, things that are actually a health hazard. That is abuse of office. Abuse of office whereby a minister will take ministerial money to have rallies in their constituencies to boost their political power. We have heard of tournaments that the former minister Priska Mfumira was having in her constituency, using resources for the ministry to hold those who have power. We also heard how Jonathan Moyo went and used money from Zimbabwe to buy bicycles for Sabukus. That is abuse of office, whereby our own ministers, our own mayors, our own councillors are using their power to subvert how things are supposed to be done in their ministries for personal gain. As the task force, what then are we going to be doing? We said we are going to be educating, engaging, and then also fighting. We have realized that all efforts that are being put across, for example, by His Excellency, when he took over office, he promised that he was going to be fighting corruption. And it is very unfortunate and sad that we have not had a single conviction of corruption in the country. It is also very unfortunate that when people speak up against corruption, instead of the leaders listening, they decide to fire those people. They decide to say, shut up and clap hands for us whilst we eat and you watch, or you can join us to eat. As a generation, we are saying, enough is enough, we will fight corruption. It is our duty as the task force to take the corruption issue to the grassroots, to the people, through educating them, using different programs that will tell you at a later stage that we are going to be educating the citizens about corruption. We have seen that the organizations that have been put by the Constitution, ZAC, police and everything, have not done enough, and citizens have been left out of the corruption fight, and yet citizens are strong stakeholders in the fight against corruption. We are going to be engaging all stakeholders, institutions mandated to deal with corruption, as citizens, as a task force. Institutions like ZAC, ZRP, the Ministry of Justice, the Parliament of Zimbabwe, realizing that we need laws that prosecute corruption effectively, because this is no longer a joking matter. It is a very personal matter to us as a generation. And let us be very clear to all that we are not personalizing to you as the mothers and fathers of corruption, but it is personal to us. Our present, our future has been affected deeply by your corruption. So we are bringing the fight right at your doorsteps. All interested Zimbabweans are invited to join this task force, which is not a political party. We have got no interest in occupying already occupied houses and buildings. We are a people's project. So every Zimbabwean who feels they've had enough of corruption, who have got ideas, who have got issues of corruption that they would want the world in Zimbabwe to know, are invited to join Zimbabweans, citizens against corruption. We are saying we are going to be fighting. The question is how? What is it that you are going to do that has not been done so far? We are going to be using private prosecution. We will follow private prosecution as a way of fighting corruption. We are going to be liaising with other organizations to have public toll-free lines whereby the citizens of Zimbabwe, the public of Zimbabwe, can report corrupt incidences and issues that they would have known, which they feel the police is failing to take statements on. We have got people who abuse their power, as we said before. And when you go to a police station to report that so and so has done this, the police will be afraid to take your statement. Or the citizens themselves, they fear for their lives. They cannot report statements. We are saying we are advocates against corruption. We will be giving out these toll-free numbers. We will be having lawyers to assist in prosecution. We have got a lot of lawyers who are available in Zimbabwe and willing to assist in the fight against corruption. But what was missing was the citizens of Zimbabwe coming up together in their diversity to say this is an enemy and we are going to fight it collectively in our diversity. We are uniting as a people, as a generation to fight corruption. I will leave my colleague, Mr. Jorwadza, to give us just a brief on corruption that is affecting our vendors on a daily basis. Corruption that has made us so poor as a people. Because we are saying we are not only talking about the corruption of cartels, we are talking about corruption in its entirety, from bottom to top, from top to bottom. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you, my sister. It is a high cause that Zimbabweans wake up to the truth. The truth of the language and the truth of the matter is that what is bad is bad. And we've become victims of corruption. And in one way or the other, no one in Zimbabwe, from the president of this country to the very last person in this country, we are all victims of corruption, directly or indirectly. Even those who are also perpetrating corruption, they are actually also victims of corruption in one way, for the corruption done by other people who are not them. So here the fight against corruption should not be taken lightly. It has become the major topic, it has become a major subject, and anyone at any point who feels that corruption must not be fought against is an enemy of the people and is an enemy to himself or herself. I will give an example. that my sister has just alluded to in terms of the corruption that has been happening in Zimbabwe on informal economy workers. I will mix the language because at times I cannot express myself very clearly in English, so I would be using Shola at times. Ndiruda kuti nditi Zimbabwe izive kuti padonzo iri rekurwisa corruption, Zimbabwe iri kufanira ku-accounta through its institutions, ehurumende nema-local authority, kuti kubva pagore ra 2013 kusvika pagore ra 2020 zvinhu zviri kutorwa zvemavhenda every now and again zviri kuiswa kupi uye mari yacho iri kushandiswa chii? Because I will tell you from statistics, we have lost hundreds of millions of things being taken away from informal traders, and at times mari inotorwa iri cash kuvanhu vai vanonzi informal traders ve-foreign currency vari kutorerwa mari nemashaks kumabhengi vachipihwa mumastreets kuti tengesai mari dzedu. Dzimwe dzacho mari dzinotorwa riri bag, but mari iyoyo haioneki kuti yaenda kupi. Mavhenda ndiri kukuti pamugere izvozvi kana uchinzwa conversation yangu, mumwe nemumwe mavhenda ndinoziva kuti we are over 5.7 million. Uyai titaure kuti chatakatorerwa chii. Ingave sweet yausina kuziva kuti yakaendeswa kupi, ringave pay boots yausina kuziva kuti yakaendeswa kupi, ringave saga remavegetables rausina kuziva kuti rakaendeswa kupi. Tinoda kuti tibatane tiuye tiregister interest yekuti we must take the government to account, we must take authorities to account. Inini pari zvino ndiri kuti ko chipuka chikurwisa corruption chabva kupi? I am excited. We want to fight, we want to be able to produce results. Tikadzoka nhasi tikabuda muroom ino majournalist endai panze apa kumavhenda at random mubvunze kuti vhenda kwatorwa zvinhu zvemari. I will tell you paunopedza street munhu anokutora ndakatorwa zvinhu zve$1,000, munhu anokutora ndakatorwa mafoni $2,000, munhu anokutora ndakatorwa malaptops 3, but tikadzoka kuti ko zvinhu izvi pazvakatengeswa mari yakaenda kupi hatizviwani. That form of corruption must be dealt with, and we are uniting. This is why you see me so excited behind these young men fighting corruption. And I'm very surprised and I'm very shocked. Kuti, who sees corruption a fighting as a problem, then are they in their head? Pfungwa dzavo dziri normal here kuti unoti munhu ari kurwisa corruption. Ndiri kudzoka today. I will also want to give you another example yandapiwa na my sister. Tine 140 informal traders. I want you to put on record my journalists. We have 140 informal workers mavenda vakatenga pisi yawo yeland kumbudzi uku. Land iyoyo mupfumi akauya anonzi State Munyanyi, nyorai mazita pasai, anonzi State Munyanyi, akabatsirwa na Justice Mabikwa ku High Court nema assessors kuti vanhu mavhenda avaridzwe vasawane anything. That is serious corruption. Why is Justice Mabikwa failing to read the law? Why is State Munyanyi, a rich person, being protected with vapfumi vatore varombe vashai? 140 stands ndikudedzera izvo right now. I want even to challenge the president of this country, His Excellency the President of the Republic, Emerson Mnangagwa, kuti read into this story of 140 people that we are talking about today. Vari kutorerwa land takasvinura. Where is he? Where is the government? I'm challenging. At this point, we want the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe to look into this matter specifically and produce results. Kanyaka diki patinye ya ombe kune murombo kuti mastands akafaitwa nevanhu over years 140. Venda aishanda neusiku achiwana $5. Votora mastands vaivo granta court ruling yekuti Munyanyi, State Munyanyi awane mastands evarombo and nyika yakagara. Here we are. I'm standing. What is the government of Zimbabwe going to say about this? If they cannot resolve such little corruption, how are they going to resolve a corruption of millions of dollars? I am very emotional when it comes to the issues of the people. I am a permanent friend to principles of democracy. I am a permanent friend to principles of good governance. I do not hold any friendship to an enemy of corruption. Whoever fights against us fighting corruption, he's an enemy to me. Tatanga kutaura nyaya yekuti nyika yedu is not going to be built on lies or built on issues dzekuti tinongoda kutsvaga ukama neushamwari. Issue of corruption ngaidilwe nayo very clearly and decisively. I think my little brother, I call him little because he's very young and he's a very young boy. He has come up with a noble idea, and I will move with him to ensure that corruption is fought against. Here we are. Chitsambe ndechekuti ndiruda kuona kuti hurumende yeZimbabwe ichaita kudii. We put in through an appeal against nyaya ndiri kutaura. Tida kuona kuti iko kunana justice anonzi ane vakuru majaja ana justice Malawa ana chief justice Chiweshe. Ndoda kuti ndione kuti vachaverenga mapepa zvakafanana namabhikwa here. Inini I wanted to call for a protest. Kuti tiite protest, but ngoiva protest inenge yapfuura. Unongo protesta oya orowa zopera. O protesta orowa zopera. And we want now to take this route yeku fight against corruption and tichisupportwa nenyika. I thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister Muzari Mdewe. You have heard Mkoma Steni vachitaura. Let's also have a short contribution from the religious side on this fight.
Okay, thank you very much, my brother. My name is Reverend Oliver Mandisoza. I'm excited to be part of this conference. Coming from the church background, what we know is, if you look at the Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34, righteousness exalts the nation, but sin is a reproach any people. So what we are saying is, as long as there's corruption, it's very difficult for Zimbabwe to rise to the step we want it to be. The church has to act as the property to the nation. The church has to advise the nation as to where it should be going. Our church fathers should be there really to help the nation in times such as this. There's a lot of anxiety. The church is very much a community-based organization. The church is the people. For instance, I tell you, we're struggling. People are coming to our churches smelling. They cannot take bath. To me, when I look at the water crisis, that's corruption taking place. So we cannot be left out because we are talking about basic issues that are affecting people. The church has been labeled from all sorts of names. Whenever the church raises a voice, the system that is corrupt is ways to silence the church. So we are saying there is talk happening in so many corridors that people are concerned. So we really think this is the time to stand up and rise and identify where corruption is coming and pray for the nation. Not only pray, but also take action, be seen. So I believe this is high time we mobilize other level-headed, patriotic Zimbabweans, people that love Zimbabwe, to say, hey, brothers, let's come in and help our brothers. Zimbabwe is not for politicians only. It's not for politics only, neither one wing, but it's for all of us. So the church has to play a role to moderate. We hear every day, even they are talking about, hey, the church must come and help us dialogue. I hope it's not just for political knowledge. The church has to be respected, has to be hands-on and be involved to protect that which is right, to bless that which is right. Any fight against corruption should have the blessings of the religious sector. We can go on and on, but I say righteousness exalts the nations. Any sin is a reproach. So corruption is as good as sin, it's as bad as sin. So to us, it is an abomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those brief comments. I will now take it up to my sister Precious from Zimbabwe Together.
A civic society organization, and in my capacity as an individual affected by corruption in Zimbabwe, I pose this and highlight that as Zimbabweans, we have contributed to our own destruction to a huge extent. We have given the civic society organizations a reason to tarnish our national image to the international community, a reason to seek for resources, for donations, for funds, on behalf of those disadvantaged who cannot speak and communicate for themselves? Who will speak for these disadvantaged people? How will they communicate to the international community regarding their needs, regarding their challenges? It is the contribution of those in positions, particularly I will target those in parliament, those members of parliament who represent us. We choose them at community level to represent us. Politically, we choose them through ballot boxes and all that. But they are representing our social economy. Are they delivering? How are they delivering? The media is awash with information, with reports that these members of parliament and people responsible are taking away, who are taking away from particularly distribution of maize. You will have reports in the social media highlighting that a certain so and so has taken and diverted some donations for the poor. Many of those people cannot even hold a, I would call it a TV, a kind of a phone that is the cheapest kind of a phone. They don't have those phones to communicate and tell a relative or a friend that this is what is happening. They have no idea where to go and report their losses, where to go and report their challenges. Who will represent those people? The NGOs have come and taken note. They have reported negatively about this, and it has greatly affected our nation. It is time for Zimbabweans, the civil society organizations, to join hands and come together to serve this nation. How are we going to do that is what is important. So I urge all Zimbabweans, the civil society organizations, corporates, the entrepreneurs, everyone who can stand and speak with their voice to come out. Let's come together in action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister Precious. I will take the last two speakers from this side, then Tovata Peda. So I'll ask those coming from the trade union side to make a contribution. It's coming from ZFTU, and we have said we are going to engage everyone. So we are also going to approach those from ZCTU and other progressive organizations to come and be part of this just fight against an injustice in the name of corruption. So over to you, Vachinem.
Yes, as workers of Zimbabwe, as ZFTU, we are joining in this fight against corruption. Vashandi vemuZimbabwe vanyanya kurwadziwa necorruption. Corruption is happening in the form of investments that we are seeing coming in this country. The workers of Zimbabwe are being abused. Some social media have been circulating our people being paid nema coins aerwa paskero kunzitora mariyo ndo yako. That's monopoly capital we want to fight. Vashandi vari kusenza 30 days, 8 hours every day pasi pemugodi mumunda maindustry, but havana chavari kuwana. Mari tiri kuwana mastreets, mushandi ashanda hana chaari kuwana. That's a form of corruption. My investors vari kuuya vachiti vari kuinvesta. We have seen youth, we support youth empowerment. Tiri kuona vari kuuya vari kuti vari kuinvesta. Tikatarisa the great dike from Guruve up to Shavani, investment that we might talk about as employment creation can be done by people of this country, my youth. We see the Asians, the Chinese coming to do alluvial mining of chrome, alluvial mining of gold. Is that investment that we can talk of job creation? We are saying that is corruption we want to stop. As a trade union, as workers, we are going to expose. We are also supporting the initiative to do public prosecution, private prosecution. We are also going to do citizens arrest. We are also going to lobby on the laws that protect whistleblowing. Corruption. We have seen diversion of inputs that is being done. We are saying as workers we need protection from the law. We cannot have our workers being fired because they've talked about corruption. This is what we are going to do as labor. As senators have said, ZCTU, our colleagues in labor, we are going to be talking to them. This is a fight for a generation. The generation which we are is to fight corruption, and it must fall. Thank you, senators.
Thank you so much. Then lastly, I'll ask for a contribution from the academia. Vangoti Pao Chidimbu.
Thank you, Senator. Let me start by acknowledging that corruption is very systemic in the country and it has really destroyed all sectors.
But maybe before you go, they might want to know who is he.
Okay, I'm Tawanda Zinyama, Doctor Public Administration. I'm the current chairperson and also senior lecturer in the Department of Political and Administrative Studies, University of Zimbabwe. But I'm here in my own individual capacity. So what I'm saying is, the issue of corruption is very serious in the country. The most disturbing thing is that Zimbabwe is a signatory to the United Nations Agenda 2030, where it has committed itself to achieve those 17 sustainable goals. But if you don't have good systems in place to make sure that the set targets, the objectives can be implemented and deliver the expected results, how then are you going to achieve? And even if you check, our government, yes, also the Vision 2030, which is in line with the SDGs. But with the endemic corruption in the country, is it possible to achieve or to deliver the Vision 2030, the upper middle income economy? Obviously, my answer is no. Why? Because we have so many leakages. Let's take agriculture for instance. Yes, we may say which is very true, but I would also want to disagree. The issue is about planning. That is the starting point. If you don't have water, but currently we are receiving adequate rainfall, and it is, but in so immediately moves out the dry season is going to come. Why are you not harvesting? You are not harvesting because one, it starts at the policy-making level. At the policy-making level, maybe we are short-sighted. No one is concerned with the long term. And why am I not concerned with the long term? That is corruption. I'm concerned about lining up my pocket today. So the sustainable, United Nations, let's consider the sustainable development, sustainability. That is the future generations. Are we together? So the future generations, what are we doing? If we don't use the current resources to build a foundation for the future, for our children. And the question is why it is like that? Obviously it's corruption. But are we saying corruption is a very big animal that we cannot handle? I beg to differ. Because if you look around the world, there are countries that are doing well. If you check what is happening in those countries, if you use corruption as an indicator or an assessment, target, you will realize that corruption in those countries is there. We agree. It's there. Even in America, corruption is there. But it's within sustainable levels. The impact on the economy is very insignificant. So therefore, what am I saying with all these remarks? What we are saying is, if ever Zimbabwe is to move forward, economically, politically, culturally, environmentally, we need to confront corruption, which is now a weapon of mass destruction. Go to health center, people are dying. Education, people are dying. They have no jobs, no food, we are hungry. Why? Because there is one weapon of mass destruction, that is corruption. And thank you.
Well, thank you. I think before I conclude, my sister here, Lynette, had forgotten something which she thinks she has to say before I give remarks to conclude this presser.
Thank you, Coordinator. The task force also noted that failing to implement government policy is a form of corruption. We have had we have policies that have been formulated by the government. For example, there is a policy that protects informal trade sectors in Zimbabwe. We have an indigenous policy that gives certain sectors to be strictly for indigenous Zimbabweans. And we have seen foreigners trading in those sectors. For example, as the ZFTU guy was saying, the mining sector, the artisanal mining sector, it is corruption to give claims to foreigners in Zimbabwe. So that is corruption when the government fails to implement its own policies. That is a form of corruption. People believe in Zimbabwe that if we remove ZANU-PF today, corruption will end. I would love to say it's the system that is there. As long as we have the system that we have today, as long as we are going to keep using this demonic, that democracy that you talk about as the system of governance, corruption will always be there in Zimbabwe. If you make me the minister today, I will do exactly what that minister is doing because the system allows me to be abusing the system to be doing that. So as Zimbabwe, we have been given, as Africa, we have been given a system to use that does not work. We have been given a system that promotes corruption. We talk about the countries that have got low corruption today, that are called democracies. America has more than 100 years of practicing democracy. And in its infant years of practicing democracy, corruption was high in America. It is lower now because they are maturing in the system and putting in a lot of things. So we need to go back to our own system. As Ubuntu, I also want to speak, when the church speaks, I also want to speak as an African woman. I am not a Christian. And I'm sure everybody has got a choice to. My religion is defined by my skin color. I'm a black woman. Don't call me ART as well, it's an insult. I'm just a black woman. We had a system, our system here won. System ya hunu hakuna corruption. Who will you be stealing from? Unangochitira ani utsinye because we are one family. It is a system that united us as one people. Why we have corruption is because we are not united as a people. I think for myself nedumburangu. I think for myself namkoma wangwa. And yet when we come back to how we used to live, sevanu atema hunu. We are family tesetaka dechibata nedzwa nemutupo yedu. So this system, as long as it is there, we are going to try as a task force to say we can fight this way, we can fight this way. But system yakanzina Murenga, let us fight. Pakaitwa chimurenga. Murenga did not fight the war, liberation war. They were fighting the whole system. And it is that system that we call racism, white supremacy, that is getting us to these problems that we are having today as a people in Zimbabwe. So as a generation, it's up to us to say, the liberation war is at yapera. Gatende merene chimurenga. Zvainzi zvinofana kuinzwa sei. What education system do we need? What justice system must we be using as a people of Zimbabwe? Then we'll start saying, taakunyanza kugojomora zviri kunetsa muZimbabwe. Taakubvisa vhiri richinoti hari tudai rakadaro. Thank you.
All right, no, thank you so much, my dear sister and the comrades here. Like you have seen, we thought we could finish the discussions in 2 hours, but our people are emotionally charged. They have been disadvantaged a lot by corruption which has been happening for all these years. And then people want to see results as soon as yesterday. And the environment out there is fully charged that people are ready to do anything to achieve results. But what we have agreed to do as a task force is to say we will remain objective and focused so that we don't then fall into certain temptations which may then compromise us and not produce results in regard to the fight against corruption. But one thing that I thought I have to raise, which the conference felt that it has to be raised, would not have done justice to the delegates, if we, speaking on their behalf, were not to raise this point, is the conference felt like there is not enough political will on the part of our leaders across the political divide to deal with corruption. Certain institutions or certain parties are in charge of central government, and they are superintending over corruption which is happening in central government. Certain political institutions are also in charge of municipalities and local authorities in certain areas, and they are equally superintending over corruption which is happening in those institutions. And central government has been failing to provide the services as expected by the people. The same has been happening with local authorities, either RDCs or municipalities. So the conference asked us as the leaders to make an appeal to the leadership to come forward and be clean on this, to at least prove to the citizens that they have the will to deal with these issues. Because people at the end of the day will be tempted to think that all that is happening everywhere, it is happening because it has got the blessings of the leadership in one way or the other. So our leaders must come clean on these issues before we start personalizing this fight against them. Because this is the temptation that people have to say, for as long as you don't pinpoint on certain leaders in charge of certain institutions or structures, we are not going anywhere, because there are people who are perpetuating these systems, the corruption. So we are making an appeal to the leadership across the divide. We are not targeting a single institution, but we think the majority of our institutions and leaders have got a problem, that they want to continue to nurture and protect corruption. And we have seen people whom they are aligned to, or whom they are alleged to be related to or linked to, engaging in corrupt activities, dining with them, and doing all sorts of things. And I think it's high time that our leaders make the right decisions, either to be with the people or to be with their corrupt associates and friends. So we are making this a call loud and clear, that I think our patience is running out. We appeal that they take heed of this call to come clean on corruption. Lastly, like what my sister has already alluded to, we are going as an interim council to engage ZAC at a date to be announced, to see how we can work with them, to engage the National Prosecuting Authority, Ministry of Justice, Parliament of Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Republic Police, the Tariffs and Competitions Commission, and all other institutions. We are going to approach them to see if we can come up with synergies and ways of fighting corruption. We are also going to continue to work with some legal practitioners in Zimbabwe who have volunteered to be part of this initiative to fight corruption. So in terms of the action plan, some have suggested, say, let's go into the streets, let's demonstrate, let's do all of these things. We have said we are going to leave it to the interim council to agree on the modalities of our plan of action going forward. So we'll be coming out to advise you on the way forward in regards to the plan of action, because I think we have said enough, we have had press conferences, we have named and shamed, but we now think it's now time to take practical measures in confronting corruption. So I think for now this is the position. Unless you have questions that you'd want to ask to those before you, then briefly we answer to those, then we adjourn the conference. My brother.
Thank you so much. My name is Leopold from newsnow.com. I have two questions. The first question is, this is the second time we are missing your partner, Louis Matutu. If you could share with us where he is, and then the second question was around the venue here. The last time you were here, you know, the last time I remember the last time I was here, we were covering war veterans. It was before the November 2017 events. And we all know what happened. At that time, I dismissed them. At that time, I was dismissing everything, saying, no, Apana Chagada, Apana Chagada, but eventually Chagada. You have dismissed what has been reported as factional fights within ZANU-PF. Are you still dismissing them? Some of the sentiments we heard here are not friendly to the party which you come from.
Okay, thank you. I will take those two questions. The first one, you asked about the whereabouts of my colleague in the party, Comrade Louis Matutu. I think the problem is you are choosing to look at what you think is the negatives other than the positives. I thought you would say, I'm happy to see you having all these progressive minds with you today, fighting together. The last time you were two and now you have multiplied. I thought that's what you were going to applaud me for doing, other than seeking to understand the whereabouts of one person. Why are you not happy that today we have close to 100 people today singing from the same hymn book? Why should it be about an individual? This is not about an individual. Tomorrow I may not be around, and these comrades will move on with the fight, because it's not about an individual. So I think instead you must applaud us for at least setting aside our differences as people. You have rightly said some of the sentiments you had are not friendly to my party, because we are not dealing with party politics. We are dealing with a national matter, a national issue. So we have said we don't care where you are coming from. For as long as you are Zimbabwean, let's come together and fight against corruption. So I think you have seen there is nothing factional about these people. Maybe I'm the only one who is coming from a party which is alleged to be involved in a factional fight. So I think for now, concentrate on these ones who are non-political, who are not even linked to a certain perceived faction or something. We are gathered here to fight corruption. And it ends there. If there are any fights in ZANU-PF for MDC, let them fight, that's their business. We are fighting corruption here. And if any one of them is corrupt, we will not hesitate to point at them, because someone will say these are factional fights. We will point at anyone, no matter your position in society. So if you want to understand more about the alleged factional fights in ZANU-PF, please go to Shake and ask them. They will give you a detailed response to that. Here we are dealing with corruption. Then you said something about the choice of a venue. When we had ZANU-PF, people said, why did you choose ZANU-PF? Because the anti-corruption fight is a national fight. Why are you here? And we moved from ZANU-PF to the media center. People said, you are from ZANU-PF, and why are you at this venue? You should be at ZANU-PF where you belong to. And today we have came here, and people are saying, the last time we saw some more veterans here, and we saw a coup or something. What do you think? And you see, we're at the corner of Nelson Mandela in the 3rd Street, near Parliament. You are not saying, why are you near Parliament? You haven't asked me, why are you in the street which houses the MDC headquarters? ZANU-PF is far away from here. And you don't want to associate us with other structures here, even the Muku's Hotel. And what happens there? You still want to drag us to ZANU-PF issues and fights, which I don't think is going to help us. This was just but a choice of a venue which we could afford. And because of its convenience. Anyone dropping from 4th Street, from Copacabana, from anywhere, it's a walking distance. They would come here and look at the numbers. They could not be housed at the media center. And because today it was a conference, we could not go to the media center. We had to find an appropriate venue. That's basically the reason. You saw white people coming from there. You didn't say, why are you here? We saw white people coming out of that room adjacent to the room you are using. You are referring to all veterans who gathered here some 2-3 years ago, not to those whites who are just coming out of an adjacent room. Why? You see, so these are just perceptions of people who are trying to push certain narratives, who don't want to see good in the effort that we are making. No, thank you. Another question?
Okay, maybe on that, from as one of the people who is supporting the task force and actually now a declared member of this task force.
Sure.
We must be able, as Zimbabweans, our biggest problem that we have had in this country is polarization. We are failing to distinguish between national and partisan political issues. As a generation, ladies and gentlemen, my comrades, let me tell you that as long as this generation does not unite over and around issues that are common to us and affecting us, we will continue being called youth with absolutely nothing to your name, because we are failing to see reason to unite as a people. We are going to be hearing tomorrow that there is another organization fighting corruption there with the same type of people, same type of youth, another one. Let us come together and speak with one voice as a generation. Let us forget this polarization. And we have declared as a task force that this is a generational fight, and we have identified corruption as an enemy. So this issue is no longer about Tenors and Lewis. Let us make it very clear that while they were the first people to have the press conference, every one of us was talking about corruption somewhere in some corner. And when we realized that there is now a voice, there are people, we said, why don't we join them and speak together with one voice, instead of creating many parallel things talking about the same thing. So this is no longer about Lewis and about Tenors. It's about a generation. It's about corruption. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think I will take just 3 questions, okay, 4 questions, then we close. Mkoma Bule.
My question is too short. You said, comrades, you said many institutions are captured, e.g. police, judiciary. But one way or the other, we want to work with them to do with corruption. How are you going to do with this situation?
No, I'm not sure if it's about any institution being captured. You cannot say either ZANU-PF or MDC as institutions are corrupt. But certain members within those institutions would have chosen to get themselves captured by certain individuals and corrupt cartels. So I don't think that the ZRP, neither ZAG, the NPA, or the judiciary is captured. We may have individuals, yes, within those institutions who are captured, but the institutions, I don't think they are captured. And we are going to work with institutions, not with individuals. And I don't see any way where the whole institution can be captured. You have people within the MDC, people within ZANU-PF, people within constitutional independent constitution who are corrupt and who are captured, but not all those institutions are captured or corrupt. And we are not going to be condemning institutions. We are going to be condemning the evil acts being perpetrated by individuals. So ZAC, police, and any other institutions, no, they remain independent institutions worth working together with. So I think that's about those institutions. My dear sister over there.